Good afternoon, everyone. At 1 p.m., there's going to be a briefing here by Ambassador Junko Kwang, the permanent representative of the Republic of Korea, who, as you know, is the president of the Security Council for the month of June. He will brief on the program of work for this month. The briefing by the president of the council will be in person only. There will not be a Zoom connection for that, so if you want to speak to Ambassador Wang, you will need to be here in the room. And tomorrow, our guest will be the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator, Martin Griffiths. We expect it to be his final press conference here in this room, so be there for that as well. Secretary General António Guterres will be traveling to Washington, D.C. today. Tonight, the Secretary General will attend the annual Kuwait-America Foundation Gala Dinner for the UN Refugee Agency UNHCR. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, will also attend the event. On Tuesday, the Secretary General will meet with the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, to discuss several issues of mutual interest. Earlier this morning, the Secretary General met with representatives of the Hostages and Missing Persons Forum from Israel. The Secretary General listened to the testimonies of the families. He expressed his solidarity with the families and reiterated his call for the immediate and unconditional release of all the hostages. On Gaza, you just heard from Andrea De Domenico, the director of OCHA's office in the occupied Palestinian territory, but I can add that the World Health Organization says that the last functional hospital in Rafah, Al-Hilal El-Amarati, is now out of service as of the 30th of May. This means there are almost no health services available in Rafah City. Only one field hospital there remains partially functional, but is currently inaccessible due to hostilities in the vicinity and can only provide basic services to patients inside. WHO says that hospitals in Rafah urgently need to be restored. However, without safe access, a sustained flow of supplies into and across Gaza, and reliable conditions for delivering those supplies to the facilities that need them, the agency's ability to effectively support the health system in Gaza is severely challenged. The UN Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, says that all 36 of its shelters in Rafah are now empty, with now some 1.7 million people estimated to be displaced in Khan Yunis and the middle area. In Khan Yunis, thousands of families are sheltering in damaged and destroyed facilities. As others continue to seek safety in Deir al-Bala, UNRWA warns that space for displaced families is running out. People there are sheltering on extremely overcrowded land with limited supplies and critical services. Janine Hennis-Plasschaert has arrived in the Lebanese capital, Beirut, in her new capacity as the UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon. She has already met with the caretaker Foreign Minister Abdallah Bouhabib to mark the beginning of her first round of consultations with Lebanese officials. In a statement, Ms. Hennis-Plasschaert said that she touched upon some of the key issues and priorities that she will be following closely. Topics discussed include Lebanon's protracted political deadlock. She added that while Lebanon faces challenges on many levels, developments across the Blue Line are of particular concern. The Office of the UN Special Representative for Children and Armed Conflict tells us that they have signed a new action plan today with the opposition Syrian National Army, which includes Ahrar al-Sham, the Army of Islam, and their aligned legions and factions. Through this action plan, they've committed to ending and preventing the recruitment and use of children, as well as the killing and maiming of boys and girls. As such, they have committed to issuing command orders to end these violations, to identify and release children currently within their ranks, and to put in place preventative, protective, and disciplinary measures for the recruitment and use and killing and maiming of children. Virginia Gamba, the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict, said that the signing of the action plan is the result of years of engagement between the United Nations and the opposition SNA, including Ahrar al-Sham and Army of Islam. She commended the work of child protection partners on the ground, adding that Syria remains one of the most dire situations on the children and armed conflict agenda. From Ukraine, the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says that attacks on Kharkiv in the east of the country continued over the weekend and today. Local authorities report civilian casualties, including among children, and damage to civilian infrastructure. Since the escalation of the war in 2022, nearly 90 children have been killed and more than 320 injured in the Kharkiv region alone, according to authorities. Turning to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, our peacekeeping colleagues reported heavy firing and clashes over the weekend between the M23 armed group and the Congolese armed forces, south of Kanyabayonga in North Kivu's Rutshuru territory. The fighting triggered displacement of civilians towards Kena, Meriki, and Kirumba, with some reaching Lubero and Butembo. In response, peacekeepers, in coordination with the Congolese armed forces, deployed patrols around Kanyabayonga to assist some of the 150,000 men, women, and children displaced in recent days, providing escorts to safer areas as well as medical care. The mission is maintaining its presence in the area. Similarly, heavy fighting was also reported over the past few days near Sake. The mission is monitoring the situation. In Pakistan, the resident and humanitarian coordinator Muhammad Yahya joined Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif this weekend in calling for the protection of girls' right to education. This after a recent string of attacks against girls' schools. He reinforced the UN and Pakistan's commitment to support the government in the rehabilitation and reopening of these schools, and to the girls in Pakistan in realizing their right to quality, inclusive education, free from fear and intimidation. We have an update from the Development Coordination Office. The Secretary General has appointed resident coordinators to Serbia, Uzbekistan, and Barbados, and the Eastern Caribbean, with the approval of the respective host governments. Matilda Mort of Sweden started her new functions over the weekend as the United Nations resident coordinator in Serbia. Sabine Machel of Australia is the UN resident coordinator in Uzbekistan, and Simon Springett of the United States will serve as the UN resident coordinator in Barbados. Their full bios are online. And last, today is World Bicycle Day. It reminds us about the benefits of using the bicycle. It's a simple, affordable, clean, and environmentally fit and sustainable means of transportation. And we have the results of the UN Bike Month Challenge, which took place throughout May. This year, 147 UN staff members and delegates registered to participate. And between them, traveled over 16,500 miles on their bicycles. This is about the same distance between New York and Hanoi. This is close to 40% more than the distance traveled during last year's challenge. And that's it from me. Are there any questions? Yes, Edie.
Thank you, Farhan. Couple of questions. First, does the Secretary General have any comment on Mexico's election of its first female leader?
Yeah, I mean, on that, basically, as we do with other countries, we congratulate the people of Mexico for the conduct of the elections. We've been told that these are the largest elections held in that country. And of course, we're well aware that the country is now going to be getting its first female president. And that's a trend that we welcome throughout the world.
And secondly, does the Secretary General have any comment on Nigeria being in total blackout because of a strike for more pay by workers?
Oh, well, on the political issue, obviously, we won't get involved into the domestic politics of this. That's to be resolved by the government and the respective unions. But certainly we hope that a solution can be found so that normal life can return to Nigeria as soon as possible. Yes, Yvonne in the back, and then you behind Yvonne.
Thanks, Farhan. Have you got any more details at all about the meeting between the SG and Secretary of State Antony Blinken tomorrow, beyond what you read out?
I think that description was as detailed and as factual as I could make it. Obviously, we will try to get more details tomorrow once this has actually taken place. You're well aware of all the subjects that are on their table. Yes.
Georgia, Athens
Georgia.
and Cyprus
Hi.
News Agency.
Hi.
Hi, thank you, Farhan. Firstly, when does Mrs. Holguin plan to update the Secretary General on the progress of her talks in Cyprus? And secondly, when would you anticipate her to present her report?
Well, luckily for me, the second question can be actually answered by the incoming Council Presidency, who will be briefing you at 1 o'clock. So you can ask them when Cyprus comes up on the calendar. Ms. Holguin has been in touch with UN officials up and down the chain, but she'll continue to keep us updated about her work. Volodymyr?
Thank you, Farhan. As you know, the Forum for Peace in Ukraine will be held in Switzerland in June. But we see that Russia and its few allies are trying to disrupt the forum and dissuade other countries from participating. How would the Secretary General comment on this situation?
Our only basic comment on this is that we expect ourselves to be participating in this. Closer to the time of the event, I'll be able to tell you who will be representing us at this event. Abdelhamid?
Thank you, Farhan. The Secretary General keeps calling for the release of all hostages. Does he include the Palestinians who were taken from their homes in the middle of the night, about 400 children and 130 women? Some of those prisoners who were released in previous exchange of prisoners? Why he doesn't specify also, when he talks about hostages, also about Palestinians who are detained without any trial? There are 4,000 of them, and the total is 9,000. Why he doesn't address that issue of Palestinians?
When he meets with Israeli families, he is talking specifically to them about their circumstances, and that's what he did today. Obviously, he wants all those who are detained unfairly to be released. But in this case, he's specifically focusing on the aftermath of the terrible events of October 7th. Deji?
Yes, just one short question. Is there any update on the operation from WFP on the floating dock, or it's still in repair?
I believe that is a matter that is in fact under repair. So it's not quite a floating dock at this moment.
Any future plans?
I think for that you'd need to first and foremost deal with the U.S. authorities. Of course, we stand ready to do our part in the arrangements once the situation allows itself. Tony and then Stefano.
Thank you, Farhan. There's media reports talking about Mohammed bin Awad, the permanent representative of Oman, started today his duties as SG special envoy to Iraq. Is that correct?
Let me check on that. I'm not aware of that, but we'll check.
Thank you.
Yes, Stefano.
Thank you, Farhan. About the trip that the Secretary General is taking to Washington, why the Secretary General is not going to see the President of the United States? I just noticed that Guterres went to see, when Trump was president, he went to see him in the White House at least a couple of times. I counted for sure 2. I don't see any time when the Guterres goes to Washington to see President Biden. I understand Blinken is the Secretary of State, but why the Secretary General of the United Nations in a situation so how the world is dangerous in this moment, why he never sees Biden and he sees him only here for the General Assembly?
He does, in fact, meet with President Biden, and as you yourself have noted, he does meet him in the context of the General Assembly. But regarding that, the arrangements we make for the Secretary General's meetings are ones that are mutually worked out with the host, with the U.S. government, and so this is the appropriate meeting that's been arranged at this time. Yes, please.
Farhan, yesterday the Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz was here in New York, and he tweeted he took part in the Israeli parade. Did they have any contact? Either yesterday or maybe today, if he is still here? And when was the last time that Mr. Guterres talked to Netanyahu? Thank you.
He has not talked to him in recent months, as we've been telling you. We have maintained communications with other officials, and we let you know. We've let you know when those have happened. Edie, and then Maggie.
Farhan, is there any update or details on the administrative leave leave of the Nigeria commanding general in Abia?
No, no update beyond what we told you about this last week. Maggie?
Farhan, does the Secretary General have any reaction to the deteriorating relations on the Korean Peninsula? South Korea has announced that they're suspending the comprehensive military agreement with North Korea in the wake of the trash balloon incident last week.
Well, we certainly hope that this issue will be resolved, and we want to return the situation on the Korean Peninsula to one that is devoid of the recent tensions. And of course, you'll have seen the statement that the Secretary General issued last week about the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and we stand by the sentiments expressed in that statement. Sherwin, way back.
Farhan, thank you. Any reaction from the SG to the shifting political sands in South Africa after the 7th democratic election in that country?
On that, of course, we recognize the results of the elections, and we certainly hope that the parties in South Africa will now continue with their process of working together in terms of government formation. Yes, Sharife.
Thank you, Farhan. I just have a follow-up on my colleague Georgia's question on the personal envoy of the Secretary General, Ms. Holgan. You mentioned that she's going to report to the Council, but do you mean is she going to report to the Secretary General? Because as she's a personal envoy, does she have the mandate to report to the Council or to the Secretary General?
I believe she reports to the Secretary General, and then we provide that information to the Security Council. I was just letting your colleague know that that in terms of when the Security Council takes this up, that's an issue that the permanent representative of the Republic of Korea would be better placed to talk about.
So she's not going to brief the Council personally as the personal envoy of the Secretary General?
I'm not aware of what the arrangements will be, but again, that's something that the Republic of Korea, in its capacity as Council President for this month, is better placed to talk about.
Thank you.
All right, have a good rest of your afternoon, everyone. Bye.